Welcome to the last webinar of the series jointly provided by the Association for Nursing Professional Development and Sigma. Today's presentation is titled, Promoting Resilience, the Power of Song. My name is Regina Camacho from the ANPD National Office, and I will be serving as today's moderator. On the left-hand side of the ANPD webinar screen, you should see the handout associated with this webinar, a refresh button, and a link to the webinar evaluation. At the conclusion of the webinar, click refresh at the bottom of the lunch screen and then select the evaluation. If you do not see the refresh button at the end of the webinar, simply exit the viewing screen and relaunch. Once you have completed the evaluation, your certificate will be placed in the grades section under the My Learning tab in the Professional Development Center. No link to the evaluation will be sent out. Throughout the presentation, you can submit questions through the Zoom Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We want this to be interactive, so we encourage you to ask questions. We have allotted time to address your questions at the end of the presentation. It is my privilege to introduce our speakers, Dennis Doherty, Hannah Foxman, and Brian Jantz. Dennis Doherty is a board-certified nursing professional development specialist at Boston Children's Hospital, BCH. He facilitates and oversees nurse orientation and onboarding, coordinates the evidence-based practice mentorship program, facilitates interprofessional leadership development, and manages the organization's Healthy Work Environment Initiative. In an effort to support his colleagues on the front line at BCH, Dennis led the planning, development, and implementation of the three-part Promoting Resilience webinar series. This series has been adapted to share with the ANPD and Sigma audience. Hannah Foxman graduated from Berklee College of Music in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in music therapy and a minor in psychology. She has been employed and practicing at Boston Children's Hospital since 2017 and primarily works with patients in the oncology, bone marrow transplant, MICU, and urology units. Hannah has participated in various research initiatives at BCH that primarily focus on analyzing the clinical application of music in regards to patients who are experiencing psychological distress, such as symptoms of pain, anxiety, stress, and depression. Brian Jantz is an assistant professor of music therapy at Berklee College of Music, who has been active as a clinician, practicum site supervisor, course instructor, and researcher for over 20 years. He has extensive experience working and supervising within pediatric medical and psychiatric substance abuse facilities. Brian is currently involved with research and clinical work at Boston Children's Hospital on the neurology, hematology, and child psychiatry units. I will now turn the session over to our presenters.
How's it going, everybody? It's Dennis here again. Some of you are probably go, no, not this guy again. It's, it's interesting. I think that another sort of interesting collaborative partnership was formed before the COVID thing happened in our hospital. Maybe, I think in the fall sometime, Brian reached out to me to sort of help guide them with the program that they were putting on in the music therapy department. And it was really the first time that I got to collaborate with anyone from the creative arts program or from music therapy. And so we got to work in together, and I think another great relationship was formed between myself, the professional development team at my hospital, and the music therapist. I sort of seen music therapists in action while I was delivering care at the bedside. But it was sort of like parallel play. It was like I was doing my thing, I'd see music therapists doing their thing. So I've really, over the last few months, have gotten to really understand and appreciate the specialized practice that music therapy brings to not patient care, but with this program that we've rolled out, also with our own self-care. So I think that, again, I said this yesterday, if you were on it, keep your eyes out for collaborative partners, people who you can collaborate with. It might not always be obvious to you what we have to share with each other, but I think that if we are open to that, there's a lot of good things that could happen. And this whole program is one of them. Hannah, can you go to the next slide?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have no disclosures. Oh, we went over it. We have no disclosures, no conflicts of interest from any member of the planning committee, and there's no commercial support for this program. I will disclose that I am a nurse, but I also rock This is me when I had hair, playing in one of the couple of bands I've played in my lifetime. And so it's actually not surprising that I've found my way. It took me 20 years, but it's not surprising that I've found my way to working with the music therapist. I also want to invite you to join our Menti platform today. So we have www.menti.com. It's on the top of the screen. It's back. We're using it again today. And the code is 125421. Just give folks a minute to get on there. If you get in there, you can give us a thumbs up or a heart. We'll take it. We'll just make sure some people get on there, and then we'll move on. Seems like it's coming along there. And then we're going to do another, we'll do a couple of polls in the beginning here. Let's see, Hannah, let's go to the next one.
All right.
All right, so we're interested, just as an icebreaker, what's your favorite music genres? You can check all that apply. So I think this is limited to 8 options, so I left another, but let's see what people like for music. Yeah, can somebody put that in the chat? Thank you. Menti information is in the chat if you need to access it there. All right, we got a lot of people who like rock. Country's up there, close second. Oh, rock, pop, and country, not surprising. That's up there. Some folks like hip hop. Some people like others. If you have an other, throw it into the chat. We're limited in what we could share here. And then, but some people like classical, classic rock. I like Broadway. I just saw Broadway and show tunes popping up there. Indie Americana, I'm with you. Techno, this is great. I was supposed to be at in Boston. It was supposed to be Boston Calling 3-day music festival. It was supposed to start today. And I am personally, music's a big part of my life, and I'm really bummed out that I haven't been able to see any like live music since, I don't know, beginning of March. And it's probably the longest time I've gone in my life without seeing live music. Even when I listen to music, I relate it to live music often, and I tend to gravitate to songs that I've seen live. It's a different experience with even after the fact when I listen to it. So, all right, we got a bunch of people have answered. This is great. Hannah, let's do the next slide.
All right. Thanks everybody for showing us the music that you're listening to.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the benefits of music therapy. I'm going to sort of sit back and do a lot of listening because Brian and Hannah are going to run a lot of the show here, talk about playlist making, and we're going to spend some time doing guided imagery, and we're leaving time for questions at the end. So I think that this is a good culmination of our 3-part Promoting Resilience series today. So we'll spend a little time on ourselves as well. Next slide. All right, one more poll. We want to know, what has your experience been with music therapy? You collaborate with them all the time. Your besties, your BFF with your music therapist. You see them in work, but you really don't know what they do. Maybe you think you have a music therapist. Well, what's a music therapist? Great. So we got a lot of responses here. We got about a third is asking the question what a music therapist is. So you're gonna find out for sure. About another 30%, 29% see them working with patients but don't really understand what they do. I'd say I put that into my experience. Was I worked in a critical care. I was doing my nursing care, and then music therapists would come and engage my patients, but I wasn't never really sort of like immersed in it. Maybe you think you might have a music therapist in your organization, and then 18% of us collaborate with them all the time, which is great. Awesome. All right, take it away, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Dennis. And this is so great to see everybody's experience with music therapy. I think we're going to start off with a little bit of music first, because that's what we like to do.
Thanks, Hannah.
So, Brian, I'm going to pass it over to you.
All right, perfect. And before I play my song, I just wanted to say that we really liked Dennis even before we knew he could rock out. And then we were all surprised by that photo in a training Dennis was leading, and now we just like him even more. Yeah, so Hannah and I often like to start with a song. We're going to keep our live music a little bit briefer today because we have a lot of other things to get to. And we also recognize that over Zoom, the sound can be kind of optimized, but it's certainly different. So just going to play a little bit of a song that actually did come up in our first in-service. I didn't tell Hannah this, but it's also a song that my father sent to me during like that first week of COVID affecting everyone so much, and then it came up again, and I see based on our poll that it kind of falls within some of the more popular categories, so hopefully you'll all recognize it right away. So just a little bit of it, and then we will get into some of the benefits of music therapy and research and a bunch of other stuff. So here comes the sun, doo 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 doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. The sun, 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 here it comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I really love when you play that song. And thanks for starting us off with music. I think when Brian and I present in any form, we like to start with music because
we're music therapists.
that's right. That's the biggest part, I think. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our program at Children's Hospital, just to give you an idea of what Brian and I do every day for our jobs. So Brian and I work at Boston Children's as full-time music therapists. We have a team of 6 music therapists, which is great. And we work all throughout the hospital, mostly with inpatient units, and we work with some outpatient clinics as well. It's been a really wonderful experience to work there, and we work with our patients on a variety of goals throughout their treatment, but a lot of it has to do with developmental support, overall coping and well-being, and just having those moments of normalcy with music while they are hospitalized. So that's a little bit about our program, and for those of you who haven't worked with a music therapist before, music therapy is the clinical and evidence-based use of music interventions to accomplish an individualized goal. So we use music to support those goals throughout their hospitalization, which is really great. We really love what we do. I'm going to move on to the next slide here. So today we're hoping to accomplish a variety of things with you, but mostly we just want to give you some tools and resources that you can use on your own. The great thing about music is it is accessible to all people. So today, through intentional playlist making and our guided imagery experience, we're hoping that you feel some of these benefits and can keep those in mind as you use them on your own. So we're going to look at mood stabilization, how music can support resilience and overall coping, and how it can modulate and change stress response. Brian is going to go into a little bit of the research around this.
Thank you. And I just want to preface this by saying we're really just touching on the research today. We have our references at the end, and there's a lot more really to look at. And it's also kind of complicated looking at music therapy research because it is so individual. It can be helpful to look at systematic reviews, meta-analyses. This is kind of where I started in putting things together for this. We know that in general, music has these beneficial effects. So whether it's physiological effects, psychological effects, we can look at specific variables like heart rate, biomarkers like blood pressure. Also, hormone levels are very interesting to look at. In a slide later on, I'll get into how kind of complex the relationship can be between music we listen to and our hormone levels, especially, stress hormones. But in general, when we look at the research, when we put, in this case, 104 studies, kind of looking at the averages, we see that there are significant effects across many different biomarkers. You can go to the next slide. And just looking at, some of the studies that have compared, and just to make this clear, this is all receptive listening. A lot of what Hannah and I do in clinical settings involves live music, but we do also support patients and families with what they're listening to and how they're listening to it. And as Dennis said earlier, more recently, we've been supporting staff in this way. And we'll even say a little bit about how we support ourselves with music we listen to. But in some of the studies, just looking at pre-selected music being listened to, there are significant differences in state positive affect, state negative affect, and in this particular study, also looking at cognitive performance, there's a significant difference the week when they're not listening to any music. I also thought it was interesting looking at the difference between Tuesday and Thursday in these graphs. You can see that like by Thursday, you kind of really need the music. On Tuesday, it's helpful, but by Thursday, by Friday, good timing, Dennis. You have us on Friday, so we kind of all need this today. But it doesn't tell the whole story, but in this study, we do find this to be significant. You can go to the next slide, Hannah.
Okay.
So I'm just going to get into this a little bit, but if you're looking at some of the more recent studies on, so how does music actually help us in the moment when facing a stressor? In this first study, it was a CO2 was the stressor, and in the second study, it was a psychological stressor. And in both cases, the actual initial stress response was amplified with the music. It was, they thought it would not be. They thought that, you would be less stressed. But then in both cases, the recovery was significantly better with music. So they kind of interpreted this in both cases that perhaps music can prime us to face the stressor, but it also might be like affecting on some level how we interpret what the stressor is so that those stress hormones potentially don't linger as long. Which I thought was kind of interesting because when we talk later on about theme songs, like some of these theme songs aren't necessarily relaxing. They might kind of get our adrenaline going. They might help us, there might be more of like a fight song. But on the other end, we might feel more closure, like we faced that and now we can move on in some way, as opposed to, when music was not part of the equation in these studies, the individuals continued to be stressed longer. So I thought that was significant.
So as we go into these tools and resources that we're going to talk about today, I think, the most important thing here is Brian and I use this ourselves. And I think the way that we use it with patients, we kind of practice what we preach. So Brian and I like to practice these things on our own too, and they're incredibly accessible to all people, which I think is great. So we're just going to talk about a couple of the theories and ways that you can make your own playlist with intention and with a goal at the end of it. Brian, did you want to touch on anything too before I go into the ISO principle?
I just was going to say, I love what you said about practicing what we preach, right? That a lot of times we kind of can easily forget about some of these principles ourselves and find ourselves kind of mindlessly listening to different music that might be impacting us in ways we're not intending. So really kind of walking the talk has been a big part of, I think, what has helped inform like these in-services. Like we definitely get it that many people just listen to music in a more kind of unintentional or a mindless way. And so we also see the difference in ourselves when we are more intentional about how we put these playlists together. So
that's right. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, and this is all going to be around curating your own playlist for particular needs. This is a theory that was developed in 1948, and it's called the ISO principle. Basically, the way that it works is matching music to your current mood and then finding your target mood that you would like to feel. So for example, if you were feeling sad and you wanted to feel happier, you can curate a playlist where the music is matching your specific mood. Now, the cool thing about the ISO principle is that it's super individualized because everybody perceives music really differently. So my playlist of feeling sad to happy may look really different to yours because the music that we listen to is different and the way that we perceive the ideas is different too. So we're going to go a little bit into how you can create your own playlist and some of the research that's behind it.
So this is just an example of what has been used clinically to help patients kind of analyze and assess how specific music affects them so they can listen in a more intentional way. And so just, using a really simple Likert type scale, music that you relate more to being really depressed or music that is, the opposite for you. I also think it's important to point out that it's not just about going like sad to happy. We can talk a bit in a moment, but like if you're feeling really stressed or anxious, finding that music that kind of meets that as well to go in an opposite direction and become more relaxed. So there's a lot of flexibility with this, and it's really about intention. As Hannah mentioned, it's very individualized. If we go to the next slide, you'll just see this one case example where Mary, the patient Mary here, was not only providing numbers, like kind of rating these different songs from less depressing to more depressing, but also providing what the messages are, what the interpretation was. And this was a qualitative study. So over time, Mary was able to kind of have more awareness of the effect of these songs that she connected with. And recognize like the therapeutic value, and then became a part of her everyday routine of what she was listening to and had a beneficial outcome.
This is just an example of a playlist that I put together for meeting you when you are sad and then slowly going to a happier state of being. This is music that I listened to, and the way that I kind of built it was through listening to the lyrical substance that is there and something that I relate to when I'm sad. All of these songs I just thoroughly enjoy all the time. And I think that's a part of it too, is like, don't force yourself to listen to a very like sad or anxious enduring song if you're not going to enjoy it too, because I think that is a part of this. But going from something that is Bon Iver and acoustic and has a lot of meaningful lyrics of kind of meeting you where you're at, and then going to Jack Johnson banana pancakes. I don't know where you can go wrong with that. So this is just an example, but like I said before, it's really different for everybody, and that's kind of the cool part, is you get to explore your musical interests and curate something that is meaningful to you. So before we go into these songs of resilience, I wanted to just share a song that I interpret as my resilience song. This was kind of my theme song when all of this started, and our music therapy team shared what songs make them feel resilient. And this is a song by Pinegrove. I'm just going to play a little bit of the chorus. I really connected to the lyrics here, and just like the melodic line, it really makes me feel something. It makes me feel hope. It's called Dotted Line by Pinegrove. I don't know how, but I'm thinking it'll all work out. Oh, I don't know how, but I'm thinking it'll all work out. just a simple song with like a line that repeats that just makes me feel very comforted and hopeful for the times ahead. So, songs of resilience. This has kind of been our theme, I think, for the last couple of months. Just gonna go to the next slide here. So Dennis has been super helpful through all of this. I think, as we've been doing these promoting resilience workshops and groups at the hospital, we've been interacting with so many amazing clinical staff at Children's. Something that Dennis did that was super cool and great was he sent out a survey to different clinical staff that he's connected to, just through different media platforms. We got about 120 responses, I think, of what songs make you feel resilient and why. And I pulled just 3 examples out of the numbers that we received, just that I thought had really good explanations of why they felt connected to this song and the meaning behind it for them. Just one thing I want to note too that I thought was really interesting was out of all of the songs, we only received one song that was duplicated that we got from a few different people, and that was Rise Up by Andra Day, and everything else was totally different. So I think that also just speaks volumes to how music is perceived so differently to so many people, and songs that feel resilient, there really is no wrong answer here.
Hannah, I was going to just jump in and say that I was personally shocked when there wasn't any more theme type, songs that came up a bunch of times, because I think the intention was like, oh, we'll share songs that a lot of nurses are using during this time. And that proved difficult because everyone likes different things and songs mean different things to different people. So like it blew my mind a little bit, to be honest. Yeah.
Mine too, Dennis. I was really surprised because you're right. That was the intention behind it at first, was like, let's find songs that Brian and I can play that people feel emulates resilience. And there was only one duplicate. So that was a really cool thing to look at, and also just see all of the different songs that people put together. So that is one way too that you can create a playlist, is finding one word like resilience, if that's the one we're focusing on right now, and then finding music that emulates resilience to you. And I think we have one more here. And then Brian, do you want to go into this one a little bit?
Yeah, so this is kind of taking this a little bit deeper, and this is a tool that I kind of adapted from a book I read probably 1.5 years ago when I was really focusing in more on my own self-care. And at first it was not a musical tool. It was just looking at like 3 qualities you kind of aspire to that are part of like your best self, your resilient self. And then in the book, they kind of suggest you set this on your alarm to like remind yourself 3 times a day. So I thought that was cool. I did that for a little while. And I was doing an in-service with music therapists who were becoming supervisors on like how to support your supervisee, how to use music as part of that. And I adapted it so that it wouldn't just be the qualities, but it would also connect the qualities to a specific song. And I then thought, well, that could be really cool too, that like the song plays kind of, when you're not expecting it, maybe 3 times a day, to kind of reconnect you quickly with that part of yourself. It also could change over time, so it was a way to kind of connect some information in that book, but make it more music centered. And I think we have a video to show, Hannah, that kind of.
Yeah, so I'm going to pull that up now. Minimize here. Okay, so this is a video. We collected just a little bit of video footage of our staff at Children's sharing the songs that make them feel resilient. And you'll also see one of our music therapists at the end sharing his examples of the 3 words that make him feel resilient and the songs that he connects those to. So I'm just going to play that.
Hello everyone, my name is Emily Crossan. I am a nurse and professional development specialist. I work in clinical education, informatics, practice, and quality. I'm the kind of person that when I hear a song I like, I listen to it over and over and over. So I didn't really think anything of it when I started listening to Bones by Maren Morris on repeat at the start of quarantine. Then I heard some folks talking about using music as a coping mechanism and to promote resilience, and immediately the lyrics to Bones popped in my head. I think without realizing it, I had chosen to that particular song because of the meaning. I think it really resonated with me, and it has a pretty powerful and optimistic message of hope to get me through these tough times.
That my song choice would be Let It Be by the Beatles. If you listen to this song, it just kind of resonated with me months ago. Just keep your faith, stay positive, and everything will all come out of this on the other end. We will do okay and be better for it. Thank you.
My name is Crystal. I'm a nurse in the PACU at Boston Children's Hospital. And in order for me to be resilient, I need to know that I'm not alone, which is why I come back to the song Underdog by Alicia Keys. At its core, it's a song about resilience, but more importantly, it's a song about seeing and being seen. There's a line in there that says, one conversation, a simple moment, the things that change us when we notice if we look up sometimes. And that's what I think COVID-19 has done for so many of us, is forced us to look up and look around and take care of each other and stand together.
Hi, my name is Mark Fuller, and I'm a music therapist at Boston Children's Hospital. 3 words that remind me of resilient are adaptable, strong, and creative. I've put together songs that remind me of these 3 words to share with you today. For adaptable, a song that reminds me of that word is Evergreen by Yeba. I find that the vocal melodies and harmonies that she creates are fluid and transform throughout the song to provide in support of her lyrics. For the word strong, I relate to the song Bound Together by Kate, York, and Van Yo. In the lyrics of this song, they say, fire with hope will find a home because we're bound together. These words remind me of unity and strength. During these challenging times, I feel proud to be part of the team at Boston Children's Hospital and know that I have many people that I can lean on during this time. The last word that I'd like to share is creative. And a song that reminds me of that word is called Home by Aurora. I want to read briefly just a couple of the words from her song. She says, I feel warm again. I'm reborn again. I'm warm inside for a little while. I am fine. I love how Aurora expresses herself in the song, and I feel like it signifies creativity because in this time, I feel I am finding myself having to transform and adapt my care and be creative during it. And Aurora expresses it perfectly by saying reborn and in rebirth. And in that process, I feel like we are creatively thinking about how we can reinvent and retransform our care to support those around us. Thank you for listening to the songs that remind me of creativity, strength, and being adaptive, all parts of ways that I want to be resilient.
Okay.
Hannah, I'm going to share a song because I can't help myself.
That's great.
I was, so we do this storytelling rounds thing, and it was interesting. Maybe 2 weeks ago, Katie, who was actually in one of the video from yesterday, who read part of her story, she was talking about being like across the street from the beach, and she was talking about this high tides and this low tides, and it like brought me back to this song by Bob Marley and the Wailers called High Tides and Low Tides. And it's a song I haven't heard in a long time. It's from an album from 1973, but it's a beautiful song. And the chorus goes, in high seas or low seas, I'm going to be your friend. In high tide or low tide, I'll be by your side. And I think I really sort of have been listening to that over the last week or two. And sort of really appreciating my friends and family who have been around me and have been by my side. But I think even more, I felt it's empowered me to go there and be there for my friends. I have a few friends who I feel like aren't coping well, and so I've been like the strong person in some of these cases. So if you don't know it, listen to it.
I definitely will. Thanks for sharing, Dennis.
We have just a few more slides to kind of look at briefly before we get to guided imagery experience that we have planned. These are just some ways that we've used listening logs with patients, with ourselves, kind of gaining more awareness, not just of the more like expressive aspects of music, you know, preferred genre and music we just love the first time we listen to it, but also that music that has like the deeper association for us, and we maybe have a better understanding of why it's impacting us in the way that it is. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see my example, having filled this out. Very messy, I realize. But what this helped me with in a way was to recognize like some of the music I would occasionally get stuck on listening to just because I loved it so much could also be impacting me in a way that wasn't always beneficial. There was an entire year I listened to nothing but Elliott Smith, and I love Elliott Smith's voice and music and songwriting. But at some point I was like, this music is really depressing. And I've been feeling mildly depressed. It might have something to do that on my commute, I'm always listening to this music. So just to kind of rotate what we're listening to, be more intentional, check in with ourselves. You know, you don't want to necessarily overthink it constantly, but just being more intentional is what this definitely helped me with. And I've used this with clients as well. And if you go to the next one.
All right. Yeah. So those are all just examples of intentional playlist making, and there really isn't a right or wrong way to do it. So you can adapt those methods that we were kind of talking about. You can make up your own. It really is just about that intentional music making for yourself and supporting where you're at. So
Can I share real quick? Just when we do this for the staff at the hospital, we ask people to share songs, and Hannah's been awesome about, she actually makes the playlist that comes out of those sessions. Maybe you're going to talk about this, but I just want to connect it here. Because, we close the loop with the people who participate by sending them a link to a Spotify playlist, and Hannah sort of puts the songs in an order that works. And it's been a really, really, really cool way of sort of revisiting a week or two later what happened in those sessions. And, you know, I'd also say that as a department or as a practice setting, that could be a cool way to get people to share songs and then make your, you know, the ICU playlist or something like that, that you could, you know, something tangible you could put into practice that might be helpful. So sorry.
No,
No,
I'm sorry.
thank you.
No. I want to jump in for a second too before Hannah starts the actual imagery, because we meant to hint around earlier on that we will be asking everyone attending for a song, and we will be doing the same for you. So this might actually be a time where you not only can hopefully, you know, take in this guided imagery experience, but maybe a song will come to mind that you end up wanting to share with us later on. Because on the other side of this, we have a couple of questions to ask, and one of them is related to songs of resilience for all of you. So I think we're ready.
Yes. Thank you so much for saying that, because I think we did forget to kind of plug that earlier. So yeah, keep those songs in mind. And if you're not totally sure what it would be right now, maybe the guided imagery will also kind of help guide you to that. So I think we'll kind of speed through this a little bit so we have time for questions. But guided imagery is this really amazing exercise that a lot of different apps can like provide those experiences. We're going to do one for you today. But it is, again, that intentional listening and relaxation of the body and mind through various prompts, and sometimes there's music. So we're going to share one that has both a prompt and music. Brian, I think I might just...
Yeah, these are just some of the considerations when we create something like this. We're kind of looking for a balance between it being relaxing, but also promoting some imagery. And just in case you're wondering, this is Hannah's voice in what we recorded, and I'm on a few different guitars that Hannah mixed in. So
That's right.
Just putting that out there.
So just really quickly, before we go into it, we are curious where your stress level is at right now. If you have a moment and can fill that out, that would be really interesting to see before we go through this. Okay. All right, so it looks like we're landing on about 5.6, 5.7.
Now we'll see what happens.
And we'll see what happens. Thank you, everybody, for filling that out. Okay. So if you're able, try to find a comfortable position. If you have headphones available, that might be helpful too, just through this experience, but you don't need them. This will also have a visualizer for you to focus on if you don't want to close your eyes or lower your eye gaze. And I think we're just gonna get started here. Welcome to this guided imagery exercise. Please begin by finding a comfortable position. Take this time to lower your eye gaze, find a focal point, or close your eyes. As you find comfort, allow your body to relax. Finding tension, then releasing that tension. Allow your hands to rest comfortably. Loosen your fingers, allowing them to naturally unfold and lay still. As we begin, bring your focus to your breath, taking a deep breath in and out. Bring awareness now to the tension around your jaw. Release this tension. Moving down to your neck. Release this tension. Lower your shoulders and relax the muscles in your back and your legs. Taking another breath in and out. As you continue to breathe, you begin to visualize yourself. You find yourself in a large, blank room. Nothing else exists in this space
but you and a small orb of light. The light in the room appears to be very far away. You begin to walk slowly towards this light. There is no urgency or rush, for you know that you will reach the light. As you walk, you feel a pleasant warmth as you near the light. Feel how calming and relaxing this is. Your pace moves with the music. And you continue to breathe. Now, begin to imagine a peaceful place. Your peaceful place. And as you grow closer to the light, the scenery around you begins to change. The peaceful place you envision is taking form all around you. What does your peaceful place look like? Are you outside or inside? Notice the colors. What do you see? What do you smell? All around you, things grow and change. Do you find yourself alone? Or are others with you? Do you find that it's daytime? Or is it nighttime? What do you hear? Do you change, or do you stay the same? You continue to breathe. You have reached the light. You hold your hand out to feel its warmth, and the light begins to move through you. You are filled with feelings of warmth yourself a moment to take in your surroundings. Taking a breath in and out. Take a mental picture of this peaceful place that you have created. And when you are ready, slowly begin to come back into your space. Start by wiggling your toes and your fingers. And when you are ready, open your eyes.
So take your time and rejoin us. We do want to get to questions that you've all been sending our way throughout, and we're a little short on time, so I think we're gonna kind of do a combination of having you do the polls while we field some of the questions as well. Does that work, Dennis? To kind of do both?
Yeah, I think, yeah, we can probably get through, leave this poll up for another few seconds. It seems like they're going pretty quickly.
I think the next poll we can take our time with more and start doing some of the questions while
Yeah.
it's populating.
Yeah, I was, we did, after we did our first workshop with this, this made a lot of sense to me, but I was, I wasn't sure how people would, respond, how nurses would respond. And, it went great. It was awesome. We had a meeting the next day, and I was, the way I described it to Brian and Hannah was, I was like, oh, like, you guys totally like music therapized us. So I hope that was a compliment, but it was
funny.
Really to be on the receiving end of things.
I feel the same way though. It's weird to listen to yourself, but like listening to Hannah's voice, like she's music therapizing me, and I'm like, oh no, I can't fall asleep. I have to sleep after this. Yeah, no, that's good to hear though. It's tapping into our relaxation response for sure. So it looks like we're at a 3.2 now. Very good.
That's great.
And also, if any questions ready, we can be having those kind of while this next poll, or I guess, what is it, word cloud, Hannah?
Yes, this is a word cloud. So we're just interested in seeing what kind of things came up in your peaceful place. Oh yeah, the beach. Love that.
And while this is populating, are there some questions there that we can be answering?
Yeah, I think that the moderator will tell us the questions.
Yes, so there were some questions that came in. One of them was, do you include MT in your nurse residency program? And if so, how?
Do we include music therapy in our nurse residency program? The answer is up until now, we haven't, but that's going to change.
I think that's going to change. We have plans. Big
starting
plans.
starting about 10 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, thank you. How do you respect copyright law when creating the playlist or use of music in your own work?
Yeah, I saw that question. So most of it falls under fair use. Most of the time we're not playing it in a public way. Sometimes it falls under parody if we're like completely rewriting the song, but we are very careful about that. Like today we only played really short parts of other songs. We don't have anything, where we would be benefiting in some way with a product that would include a cover song. And if we did do that, we would make sure that we did pay the copyright fee. So we're definitely aware of that. I think the past few weeks and months, it's definitely come up with a lot of like the sharing on YouTube and things. But we also use a lot of original songs, and we improvise quite a bit too. So
Great question.
Perfect. How do you get frontline nurses to music therapy? Do you have a regular time to offer nurses to drop by in an office hour or somewhere they can do this?
again, it might fall under our plans for
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
staff support.
Yeah. I don't, Brian and Hannah, have you done anything specifically for nurses before this?
This was a plan for, I was working with one of the nurses on our oncology unit, and currently we are providing this kind of support group for caregivers at bedside to attend. So we were hoping to expand that to our staff, and it is also, as a whole, our caregiver support group can expand to staff and they're welcome to be there, but obviously during the day and during work hours, it's super hard to like take those intentional moments to stop. So we're hoping to do something like that, especially with all of the work that we've been doing with Dennis. I think you're an excellent person to kind of help us out and develop these programs for our nurses.
I'd add on, I think that the Zoom thing through this has been pretty remarkable. I think I've said it every day. I'm getting new participants that I haven't been able to before at my professional development programs. And I think that getting away from the bedside is really, really challenging in the course of a day.
Yeah.
However, coming on Zoom for an hour, even on your day off, just might be, just what the, was needed for you, for your own development or for your own self-care, for your resilience. That's my, that's my take on it, is that technology might be helping us.
So it seems everyone has already noticed we switched to our last question, add your song to the playlist. And we will do the same for you as we've done for our own in-services. Hannah's pretty remarkable at putting these playlists together. I always offer to help, but she's just better at it.
It's fun to do.
Spotify
I really
Pro.
enjoy it myself.
But while you're answering this question, I'll follow up on what the other question was. I have done nursing retreats in the past at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, but it would be like once a year and often get, positive feedback. But I think what we're looking at now is more like on an ongoing basis, how can we support staff, which is also supporting the patients and supporting the families. Like we really see it all as part of the same, all kind of falls under like supporting our community. Music's not just for like one part of the community, it's for everyone.
Right.
So music's for everyone.
Yeah.
All right, we have time for one more question. How do you show that ROI for this type of work?
As far as cost effectiveness goes?
Yeah.
So there's been some research in our field in this area. I will be honest, we tend to cite the same study that is a bit older at this point. I feel like this is something we talk about a lot at Children's Hospital is, we think of music therapy as essential for optimal care, but also cost effective. I'm doing research right now on procedural support with Hannah, where we look at like the difference with music, without music for specific procedures. Is there less medication needed, are less staff needed for that procedure, and then like weighing the cost effectiveness. It's a pilot study for us, so we're still doing our own study on this, but there has been some research in the past that has been really encouraging. It's a definite need in our field though to have more of these studies and more current research on how music therapy is part of being cost effective. Great question.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. That is all the time we have for questions. Thank you for participating in today's webcast jointly provided by ANPD and Sigma. I would like to extend a special thank you to Dennis, Hannah, and Brian for presenting today's session. Webinar recordings are available to ANPD members following the live webinar. An email will be sent out to a membership when the recording is available in the recorded webinars page. As a reminder, at the conclusion of this webinar, go to the launch window in the Professional Development Center, hit the refresh button, then select the evaluation on the left-hand side of your viewing screen. Again, if you do not see the refresh button, simply exit out of the viewing screen and relaunch the webinar. Once you have completed the evaluation, your certificate will be placed in the Grade section under the My Learning tab in the Professional Development Center. No link to the evaluation will be sent out. We appreciate your feedback and input as we further develop ANPD's educational programming. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.